Here we go, eh? You've bought your GPS bracket. Awesome. Thanks for that. I really appreciate it. I think you're going to enjoy it. Anyway, let's hook straight in. I've designed this thing around the Garmin Montana, which is quite a big GPS, but that doesn't mean that you can't put anything there, really. Like, from the speedo being on this side, the GPS sits here. There's actually a lot of real estate on this bracket to use it for whatever. A phone, you might not even want to put a phone or GPS there. You might have an array of switches, whatever. It's not a be all and end all for the Montana. It's actually quite a universal mount. Anyway, let's get into it. First thing you want to do is just rip the screen off. Screen off, just come round to the back here, and there's these two bolts right here. Just take them out. You just got to crack it a bit, give it a bit of a wriggle, and it will come up and out like that. Right, spin that around and you'll see 3 Phillips head screws. So you just take these out and then you can release the bracket. And down here, I think this is the ambient air temperature sensor. That's what I think it is. Anyway, just undo that little Allen key bolt there and free that up. And then you're almost free. Now just pull the little rubber boot back and you see this grey clip. Squeeze that little tab in and just gentle wriggle and out, and you've got your speedo. So you'll notice that there's only 3 mounting screws for the speedo. It's not that heavy, that's all it needs. Anyway, don't worry about that. Now, you should be able to just move that out the way for now. That's your main mounting bracket for the plate. While you're here, just get this out the way. It's just 2 little Allen keys. Be very careful with dropping screws and things, washers. This bike just swallows it up. They don't reach the ground, they just disappear down into the inners of the bikes. I know that because I've done it a few times. Now that you're at this stage, there's a bit more of a delicate process, and delicate by snipping existing zip ties, that sort of thing. What you want to do, if you follow this harness down through the frame, now a lot of you have modified your bikes and done things and added bits and pieces. As it is, for the GPS, you've obviously mounted some sort of power cable through the frame and network. So I'm not going to show you how to do that because that's up to you and the product you're using. But what you want to do is obviously combine your power cable as close as you can to this harness. So obviously be really careful removing the standard zip tie arrangement, but follow the harness down to the steering stem, the base of the steering stem. You want to get the most extension out of this harness, and you don't have to stretch it, you don't have to pull it, you don't have to do anything crazy. You just watch it. When you snip the existing position, you'll basically be able to get that electrical connector almost perfectly aligned with this bar. Don't stress too much because there is give, but you just want to get as much slack out of it as you can. And once you've done that, this is basically how you want it to look. You'll see I've added another zip tie, and I've captured the actual harness, the lighting harness as well, and my Garmin power cable, which runs back through the bike, right? So that's how you want that to look. You'll see that it runs through that little bracket down there, and I've added another little zip tie for my Garmin power cable. Again, it's up to you to configure that the best way you can to suit whatever it is that you're running, whatever GPS device, power cable, whatever. It's all pretty logical. Just get to that point first and you'll be sweet. Get your little lolly bag that came in the package. Just empty that out, and you need to like pre-insert these two because they become captive. So just wind those two in. You don't have to do it tight, just get it home, finger tight, just nip it slightly, done. They just need to be captive like that, right? Happy? See those two hooks there, they need to be facing down. Feed your little speedo doodah through there. Feed your Garmin GPS bracket through there. Now's about the time you can poke your little air sensor back in, lock that sucker away. It just sits down there like that, kind of out of the way. Right, next, get your bracket. This is a finicky part of the whole job, but the beauty of this, you do it once and it's done. It just becomes part of your motorcycle, this bracket. Okay, so you've fed your whatever power supply GPS bracket through, just let it hang out the way. You've got your little speedo cable through. Get your speedo back. Once you've clipped that in, you really want to make sure that rubber boot is sitting perfectly over it, snug all the way home, because then wriggle it back in like that, and you'll see that's how it should look. It should all be sitting pretty. Then get your Phillips head screws and 100% put a little bit of spit on the threads, because these the speedo is quite hard plastic, you know, and they just self-tap as screws, and if you don't put a bit of lube on, it'll feel really tight, like it wants to crack the thread or split it. So just help its cause, spit on the threads and they'll glide in. You don't have to do them super tight, just, you know, just nip them up firm. It's only like, they're never going to come out. The whole thing is effectively like a nylock, so just nipped up, done. Wriggle this plastic backing plate into position and feed those two holes onto the captive bolts, and what you'll be able to do is just get the harness up out the way. You'll see the harness, you'll see you're not crushing the harness, it's clear, there's plenty of room, it's free. Nothing's rubbing or crushed or chafing, everything's free in its own little area. So make sure you just pull that harness across, you'll work it out. A couple of washers and a couple of nylock nuts from your lolly bag if you just squeeze the whole lot together, those bolts will poke through enough to get a start. Just maneuver and wriggle the bracket a bit until you get those washers and nuts into a nice central position. Just get a little bit of tension so they hold. You'll see I've put 4 bolts in the packet. You'll see there's an actual point you can drill out the 4th hole on this backing plate. Thing will be fine off of 3 bolts, but if you want to go that extra mile, drill out that 4th hole and yeah, just put in the 4 bolts as supplied. There we go, that's what it should look like from the back. You can see I've got, I actually fitted the 4th bolt, just drilled out that hole. You'll see the hole, it's there waiting to be drilled if you want to do it, into the Yamaha bracket, that is. Make sure the nuts are screwed down and into the nylock. Don't crush it too much, but you know, just get them through the nylock nice and flush. Then just double check all your cables are sitting nice and clear. If you look down there, you'll see that perfect cavity waiting to accept them. So what you need to do is just locate those 2 tongues, wriggle it in and down, perfect. Your holes will be lined up. Then we just put those 2 into the back. Even now, to this point, you can still keep an eye on everything and see that nothing's crimped, nothing's you know, fouled or tugged. Everything's got good tension and it's all sitting nicely all the way down. And if you follow it down, your harness is right, you want it to look like that. See how the harness is just sitting perfectly down in that cavity, and it runs clear of anything and everything. Now we get the little top bar, just drop that down underneath. What I recommend you do, you don't have to do it straight away because you might not have any, but get some automotive silicone and just put a little dab of silicone up under there. It doesn't have to be much, just a dot, and that will completely seal the deal on the vibration and just the overall rigidity of this thing. It's not necessary. It actually goes on under tension once you actually bolt it in, so if you don't want to, don't worry about it. It's not necessary. I would do it, and again, you don't have to do it straight away. You can do it whenever. The reason I've not made this captive, I've found it's good to have a bit of float, because just big hits, if you drop the bike and lands, it can actually shift under an impact and not break anything, not break the bracket, not break the bike. It's a little bit of give is good, but that doesn't mean it moves. It's you'll see. Just ensure, you got to give it a bit of a wriggle, but just ensure those shoulders click in. Just have a look down here. There we go, hear that? Click. And just make sure it's clicked home before you bind the screws in. You know, like I said, you can go and ride it for a couple of weeks, a month or whatever. Next time you're at a hardware, just get a little bit of, and just put a dab of silicone up under there, and just let it cure overnight, and that just completes the rigidity and sort of vibration effects. But that's the bulk of the job done, and you can see now this whole speedo arrangement is at one with the tower, not wobbling around independent like they are standard. As you can see, there's heaps of real estate here to put anything you like. Obviously I've configured this around the Garmin GPS, which is quite a universal bracket, and it'll probably take a number of models. I don't know. I don't have every Garmin model ever made, but looking at this bracket, those 4 holes and that configuration looks pretty standard. The whole purpose of this bracket is to give universal real estate to mount anything. You might not put a GPS, you might have an array of switches, your turbo boost, your cigarette lighter, a photo of your grandmother here. I don't know, it's up to you. Do what you want with it. Okay, for those of you running the Garmin GPS, 2 things. Those little metal doodahs that are in the rubber holes, pick them out and get rid of them. Alright, take them out. Now, another little thing I've done to make your life easier, I'm hoping you can see it. I'm not sure, you should be able to see it, but if you look closely, there are 4 little template holes for you to just run a small drill through on this side, but for these 2 I've got something else for you. Get the last 2 little screws out of your lolly bag, couple of tacks, good little tacks. Use this as a pre-drill, line up your first little hole, you can see it. Just go in gentle, just use the drill part to start it. And just ease it in. Right, hear that? That's the ratchet. You want that, if you've got a tech gun, make sure you use the ratchet. Push it in. Right, you don't want to go too hard, just get it in. Done, it just has to be below the surface. Last of all, just drill out those 2. Use your actual Garmin supplied mounting bolts. Get those suckers in there. Job done. Boom. We're in business. Have fun with it. Go forth into the unknown and take some pictures. Post it on your social. Let me know how you're going with it. And once again, thanks for supporting what I do. And this may be the first of more products to come. Cheers.